July 13, 2024. Houston, Texas, a city known for its energy, both figuratively and literally, witnessed an event that will be etched in history. On that day, a rally gathered unprecedented numbers to hear former President Donald Trump as he launched his campaign for a potential political comeback. The atmosphere was charged, but what no one could foresee was how the event would end, with a single gunshot that reverberated across the nation. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. The fateful day, a bullet or a warning? At precisely 6:11 p.m., chaos erupted. Witnesses shouted in panic, "He's there! He's up there!" The gunshot echoed from a rooftop, and confusion rippled through the crowd. The shooter was quickly identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, a man standing roughly 120 meters away from the stage, hidden on the rooftop of a nearby building. Trump, however, did not flinch. Instead, he stood firm, raising his fist and shouting, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" A defiant act that some saw as a moment of resilience, while others questioned its intent. Initial reports indicated that Crooks acted alone, a seemingly ordinary man, driven to extremes by anger at a system he believed had failed him. His blank stare gave no immediate answers, but the burning question lingered. Was this truly the work of one man, or was there a more intricate plot behind the attempt? Crooks' past painted a typical American story, a decorated veteran, a quiet suburban life. But somewhere along the way, his political views radicalized. Investigators combed through his history, and on the surface, no clear red flags emerged. However, his social media presence told a different story. Months before the assassination attempt, Crooks had posted increasingly cryptic messages, memes about a deep state, calls for a political reckoning, and dark warnings about the need to reclaim the country. Had Crooks acted alone, or had his online presence been a signal that he was merely a pawn in a far larger game? As investigators dug deeper, it became evident that Crooks's anger wasn't solely directed at Trump. It was aimed at the American political system itself. Was this a calculated act to disrupt the country's political landscape, or something more deeply embedded in the nation's fabric? Benefits from chaos. To understand the layers of this conspiracy, we must ask a fundamental question. Who benefits from this chaos? As the media dissected the assassination attempt, whispers of deeper motives emerged. Could this be more than a deranged man seeking revenge? Some claim this attack was orchestrated by those Trump had been warning about for years, the infamous deep state, a faction allegedly pulling the strings behind the scenes of American politics. Throughout his political career, Trump had repeatedly spoken of a shadowy group within the government, an elite faction working in the shadows, seeking to control the political narrative. This deep state, he claimed, was aligned with powerful industries and government insiders. But why target him now? Could it be that this assassination attempt was part of a long game, aimed at further destabilizing the country? Or was there an even darker agenda at play? Investigators uncovered disturbing details, leaked communications between high-ranking officials suggesting plans to remove obstacles from the political landscape. Was Crooks acting on his own volition, or had he been manipulated, a tool used by these hidden players to send a message? The more investigators uncovered, the more it became clear that Crooks' failure might not have been an accident, but a key part of a larger plan. As the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, a chilling pattern emerged. Every major political shift in recent history seemed connected to a network of powerful figures: corporate moguls, military insiders, and politicians. These individuals had ties to industries that thrived on chaos: arms manufacturers, private military contractors, and tech firms with access to unprecedented levels of information control. The implications were clear. Chaos benefited those who profited from war, surveillance, and fear. Truth or cover-up? The lone gunman narrative is as old as political violence itself. It's the simplest explanation. the one the public most readily accepts. But history shows us that simple explanations often hide complex truths. Take the JFK assassination. Despite the official report, a majority of Americans still believe that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. Could Crooks be part of this same lineage of supposed lone gunmen used to cover up deeper conspiracies? Crooks seemed to fit the profile of a lone actor, disillusioned, isolated, angry. But his actions on July 13, 2024, were too deliberate, too precise to dismiss as impulsive. Witnesses reported seeing Crooks days before the rally, surveying the scene, planning his next move. And then there's the weapon, a custom-modified sniper rifle, the kind used by trained military professionals. This wasn't an act of rage, it was the execution of a plan. How did Crooks gain access to such a sophisticated weapon? According to FBI reports, Crooks had no known ties to any militia groups or arms dealers, yet the trail of his rifle led investigators down a dark path, one linked to a covert government gun-dealing ring, tied to programs specializing in agents who couldn't be traced. Could Crooks have been recruited, trained by a secretive faction within the government? Or more disturbingly, could he have been mind-controlled? It may sound outlandish, but the US government has a long documented history of experimenting with human behavior control, MK Ultra. Ring any bells? Was Crooks part of the next evolution of these programs designed to sow chaos and confusion? The rise of false flags. History is littered with false flag operations. Events designed to look like the work of one group, but secretly orchestrated by another. Could the assassination attempt on Trump be the latest in a long line of such operations? An act so brazen, so chaotic, that it left the public reeling while the real players moved in the shadows? Within hours of the attempt, Trump's approval ratings soared. His base rallied, more fired up than ever before. Calls for a crackdown on political extremism rang out, and the defense sector saw an immediate spike in profits. Could this failed assassination have been the ultimate false flag, designed to boost Trump's status and political capital, while those behind the scenes profited from the ensuing chaos? If this was indeed a staged event, the implications are far-reaching and terrifying. It means the lines between reality and fiction are more blurred than ever. And it begs the question, what else is being staged? What other events in recent history have been orchestrated to keep the public distracted, divided, and afraid? The grand agenda. As the investigation into the July 13th assassination attempt unraveled, a startling thought emerged. What if this was never about Crooks or even Trump? What if it's part of something much larger? An agenda set in motion decades ago? A plan carefully designed to keep the world in a constant state of fear and conflict? Experts have pointed to the report from Iron Mountain, a controversial document from the 1960s that outlined how continuous war, or the threat of it, was necessary for governments to maintain control. The wars of today are no longer fought in plain sight. They are covert operations, cyber attacks, psychological warfare. The assassination attempt may have been just one chapter in this ongoing conspiracy, a deliberate act to keep the world on edge while the real players maneuver behind the scenes. This conspiracy is not confined to the United States. Behind closed doors, global leaders make decisions that affect millions. And while the public watches the political drama play out on their screens, the true power brokers are carefully orchestrating events to suit their own agenda. Could the assassination attempt be just one more piece in a larger puzzle, a distraction designed to further more sinister goals? The deeper you dig, the clearer the picture becomes. This event wasn't about a political figure, it was about control. Control of information, control of perception, and ultimately, control of the future. But the conspiracy goes deeper. Some speculate that Trump himself might be in on it. Who benefits from a failed assassination attempt? Who becomes more powerful, more beloved, and more essential than ever? Could Trump have known all along? Could this entire ordeal have been a carefully calculated move in a much bigger game? The global ramifications international political experts were quick to connect the dots. Could this have been the work of foreign adversaries, nations that have long sought to disrupt the U.S.'s internal stability? Some intelligence reports indicate that certain global powers may have used Thomas Crooks as a puppet, indirectly funding his actions or influencing his radicalization online. Consider this. If the United States is distracted by internal chaos, who benefits on the world stage? Russia, for instance, has a known history of using proxy actors and cyber warfare to destabilize rival nations. Their influence in U.S. elections is well documented, but could they have taken their interference to the next level? Thomas Crooks' online activities, particularly his posts about a coming reckoning, bear striking similarities to radicalization techniques used in foreign psychological warfare operations. China, meanwhile, has invested heavily in manipulating global political landscapes to expand its influence, particularly through information control and cyber infiltration. Could Crooks's radicalization have been aided or accelerated by external forces feeding his disillusionment through targeted online propaganda? The digital footprint suggests it's possible. We've seen foreign powers use social media and digital platforms to fuel dissent, manipulating individuals into extremist behavior without them ever knowing they were being used. Crooks, with his erratic yet methodical behavior, seems to fit the profile of someone targeted by these kinds of disinformation campaigns. This isn't just conjecture. Experts have long warned that online echo chambers are ripe for manipulation by hostile nations seeking to destabilize democratic institutions. Conclusion: the assassination attempt on July 13, 2024, was not an isolated event. It was a flashpoint in a much larger, much more sinister global conspiracy. Whether it was the act of a lone gunman, a false flag operation, or a covert play by global powers, one thing is certain: it wasn't just about Donald Trump. It was about control. Control of nations, control of information, and control of the future. In the end, it's not about who pulled the trigger. It's about who orchestrated the events leading up to that moment. The real power lies not in the visible players, but in the unseen hands that guide them. The next time you hear about a global crisis or political event, remember to ask yourself, what's really happening behind the scenes? Because somewhere, the real players in this game are already setting up their next move, and we're all just pawns on the board. If this story has left you with more questions than answers, you're not alone. The truth is out there, but it's up to us to dig deeper, to question everything, and demand real answers. Here at the Mystery Media, we are dedicated to uncovering the hidden truths shaping our world. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries behind the failed Trump assassination, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Because remember, often the truth is stranger than fiction. Join us as we continue to unravel the biggest secrets of our time. The world is full of shadows, but together we can shine a light on the truth.